Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's 44 Club. As always, we're just going to be walking around, taking a look at some of the cars that we're working on this week, and taking your questions as usual. So, this week we've gotten the air oil separator resealed on this car. We have the sensor back on. I'm getting ready to install the timing chain and gear, pads, all that. And then we've got the cam cover here out being powder coated along with the timing belt cover. So we're just trying to get this back together here, but it's coming together pretty nicely. So found a rat nest in the air cleaner, got that put all back together now, and we're just chipping away. We're going to send these injectors out. J Fusion says hi. Well, welcome to the show. Hope you're having a good Sunday. It's beautiful out here. We've got the doors open at the shop because it's warmer outside than it is in here. But yeah, beautiful day to relax and sit back and enjoy the show today. So I'm glad you guys are joining me. We're going to try and wrap up most of this car. We won't have the cam cover for a few more weeks, but in that time we'll go ahead and get the clutch installed in it. We've got the front main seal in now. Before we install the water pump, we're going to reseal the oil cooler, and we're pretty much done with this car. But it is getting there. So I hope everybody had a great week. Over here on the barn find car, we've got it all broken down now. And we're going to clean it up. Sometimes these gaskets get stuck. The reference sensors are seriously stuck in there. Hopefully it doesn't need a new clutch, and hopefully we don't have to remove these sensors by other means, such as removing the bell housing. We won't know, but we've been trying to drill them out. We didn't even try and pull this one out yet, but it's in there pretty good. I have seen these fused in there so much before that even drilling them out wouldn't get them out. So this car's been sitting since 1999, and even though it was in a barn away from the elements, it's still got humidity to it. You can see just how corroded the engine is. You know, it's not terrible, but it did oxidize the block a little bit. Nothing bad, but we're gonna clean that up, get it looking good, get these gaskets off there, and we got the tank drained, and we're hoping that we don't have to go any further than that. It looks pretty good in the fuel tank, so hopefully we don't have to just drop that out and flush it. Well, how's everybody's Sunday going? Mark asked, what's the best way to clean off that oxidization? There's a few things we do, but honestly, when it's this bad, you're gonna have to scrub it. So an SOS pad works, but you just want to make sure that everything is covered up. If you've got the engine out, then that's the time to vapor hone it. But in this case, what we're going to do is probably use some steel brushes, some degreaser, use some engine clean stuff. That'll get most of that off there, and finish it up with some WD-40. So it sounds kind of weird, but WD-40 will go in there and actually go into the aluminum, not wipe it off. Just let it soak into it, and it'll bring it back a good bit. So me see. Let me see if I got any around here. Usually I have some WD-40 around here. Have you seen the WD-40?
No, because Eric and I were looking for it last time. We couldn't find it.
Oh, we had it since then. But yeah, you can scrub with just engine cleaner. They even make some specifically for aluminum engines. Aluminum cleaner works. But you'd be surprised at how well WD-40 does on these cars. We cleaned one up like this. It's been a while now. Earlier this year, and it turned out beautiful. You'd never know the engine looked like that. But sometimes just spraying WD-40 on there goes a long way. It'll cut the oxidization off there. And I've got a big can of it, but he was here last week you were here and you couldn't find it? But yeah. I know we've had, oh, there it is right there in front of you. They put it back on the shelf.
Oh.
Okay. I didn't even think
it was around the other way.
Yeah, I've already got to get in the can of this. We go through a lot of it. So like, we'll start here on the alternator. Right, just cuts it right off there. Even just WD-40 will go a long way on this aluminum. Yeah, I got to get another can of it, but yeah, and you just see if I got something to wipe it off here. Now, when you do the final coat of this, you don't want to wipe it off. You want to just let it sit. But if you're going to try and clean it off, so it takes all that white off there. But yeah, WD-40 will go a long way. But they do make special engine cleaners that are specifically for aluminum engines, and I'll clean it up pretty good. We're gonna have to do some scrubbing here, but if you do use an SOS pad, just make sure you don't get anything down in here. And if you use a steel brush, which works really well, sometimes it will leave some scratches, but sometimes it doesn't. So I've had to clean quite a few parts this week with some steel brushes and I didn't scratch it. So it just depends on which ones you use. But if you have the engine out, you always have this option here. So these are the parts that we have vapor honed, and these are not painted. This is just the way it looks once we vapor hone it. Let's see, it says, John says, hello Brent, Porsche's in turmoil again. In turmoil again as a business. Is it time to resurrect the success of the 944? J Fusion says, I changed the clutch, slave and master cylinder. The clutch went out fast, barely grabs as the pedal is out. Is it common for the clutch to go out in a day or two, or could the fork? So, it's extremely possible, but just make sure you got everything adjusted correctly. So, sometimes the pedal rod might not be adjusted correctly, but we do have a car over here. I'll take you guys outside. We don't go outside very much, but it's a nice day. Sometimes it's a little too hot. Sometimes it's a little too cold, but the day is just right. And I'll show you this car. So this car came in 6 months ago-ish, and we replaced both cylinders. And the car drove perfectly fine. The cylinders were on the floor, so you know that's typically a sign that they need to be. So we replaced them, and car came back, we can now not push this in, and the slave cylinder down there stays out, so the fork is staying activated. And I went down there and I pushed it back in, but you still cannot push the pedal down. So we put in another master cylinder, same issue. So it's not the cylinders, there's something probably mechanically broken inside the clutch here, and that's what we're going to have to go in and do. So if you're having issues like that, you're probably in the same boat here. But if it's continually falling to the floor, it could just be that you still have air in the system or something, or the rod is adjusted incorrectly. But yeah, for the most part, something's got to be. It doesn't make any sense. The clutch fork, from what I can tell, is just not returning, and so that's not allowing the cylinders to work. Makes really no sense, because you would think that if the clutch fork is stuck, then you could still push the pedal, right? You would think, but there's nothing. I mean, we replaced both of them again and it's still the same issue. So, and I can move the clutch fork back and forth, so maybe I'm just missing something, but I don't know. This one's got me stumped, because brand new cylinders, you can push them one time and then you cannot push them anymore, and the clutch fork doesn't return. And if you take the cylinders out, the clutch fork still sticks. So it tells me something's there, but why we can't seem to press the clutch, it doesn't really, nothing tracks here, but we're thinking something's broken inside there. I've heard of the clutch forks breaking before, never actually seen it. I know that the throwout bearings can go bad. This is a rather high mileage car, so who knows, we're just gonna have to get in there and check it out. But yeah, it's not common to go out in 1 or 2 days. Jeffrey says, looks like a good candidate for a degrease and power wash after plugging all the holes. Absolutely is. Yeah, and don't be afraid to like wash your engines. These sensors, you know, they can take a lot. If your car is having trouble starting after you've gotten it wet, then you need to check the rubber seals and stuff on this. But I power wash my engines all the time, and I don't have any problems with that. So yeah, this one's an odd one. Very, very odd. Everything mechanically seems to be working right with the clutch cylinder, so I think something's broken somewhere in there. But yeah. So he's over here trying to find the leak on his 944S here.
Yeah, I think
Pressure's going down, right?
Yeah.
So we had this up at 9 psi, and now it's down to 7 psi.
Yeah, it's dripping down.
And so I'm thinking it's coming from. Now you can see a little bit right there. It looks like there's coolant dried. So that's my best guess of where this is coming from, but it could also be anything. We consistently see bad radiators causing that too. So he's got the belly pan on, so it's going to be almost impossible to see exactly what's going on there. Oh, I'm going back up and reading John's comment. Okay. He says, hello, Brent. Porsche is in turmoil again as a business. Is it time to resurrect? Okay. So sometimes I read the comments and it's hard to get the full context of what people are saying, and have to go back and read it again. But no, I heard that their sales are down in the slump. So yeah, you never know. Would they bring back something like that? Who knows? I mean, so I probably have an unpopular opinion here, but I know that on the 928 forums, they're always like, they need to bring back the 928. Like, they pretty much make the 928 now. It's just called the Panamera. Like, to me, the 928 should have always just been a 4-door. Yeah. They did make a 4-door, but it was like a one-off. But yeah, to me, it should have just been a 4-door from the start. So about the 944 coming back, I doubt they'd ever do that unless they really needed to. Because you got to think the 944 would share almost no parts with anything else that they're producing, and didn't at the time. And you know, they eventually brought the 968 out to sort of at least have a common look between all the lineup. But with the Boxsters and stuff, you know, I think even some of those 4-liter GT3 or GT4 RSs, they've got like the engine that's basically the same as the old outgoing 991.1s. They used to be a 4-liter or 3.8 or something, somewhere around there, but it's probably the same engine roughly. But I think it'd be even more expensive for them to drop everything and then have to recreate a whole new car to go in production. Yet shares none of the other parts with anything else in their lineup. But it is an interesting idea. You know, it's, very interesting idea, but yeah, it'd be. I mean, how are the BRZs and stuff doing? I guess you'd have to look at the market and see what's going on. I know back in the 80s and 90s when they were making these cars, like everybody was ripping them off and selling cars for half the price. So, I mean, are you going to jump back into that market and then have the same thing happen again? So it was, even though Porsche was selling a good bit of them, I mean, they could have sold more if they just didn't have everybody out there trying to clone it for half the price. So, I mean, what would happen today with that? You never know. I mean, it'd take a lot of money to tool up and just design a whole new thing. But it's interesting to think about. But, I mean, they would have to build something that they could do a front engine, but it would have to be probably an engine that they already have. I doubt they would just design a straight up. Well, they could have the Pan Am engine, but yeah, I don't think they'd do that. The other half of that is today's modern drivers, how many you're going to buy it straight for. It's, even though the 968 was like a really good car for the time, it was well refined for the time, I don't think you would sell a 2.5 liter or a 3-liter engine 4-cylinder, even as smooth as it was for the time, today to anybody. I don't think it's going to happen. As balance shaft technology's come a long way since then, but it's so expensive that to get one to smooth it out even further, and you're just never going to get rid of that very harsh idle that inline 4s have. And of course you got hydraulic mounts and all this stuff, but I mean, it's just not a very refined car compared to modern stuff. So it depends. Be kind of interesting, but yeah, I think they would try and steer away from that. They'd probably go with a straight 6 and just call it a day. So what do you guys think? So I think I've got, so anyway, we could kind of go into this a little bit, to talk a little bit more about this. But yeah, so anyway, I think the world's pretty much moved on from like large displacement 4-cylinders. Of course, they could go with a smaller displacement 4-cylinder and turbocharge it, and you know, those little 1.8 liters a day make a lot more power than stuff from decades ago. But and that way you can use smaller smaller components and lighter weight components, and then you could get away with it. But yeah, I just don't think that the world's gonna clamor for another little 4-cylinder engine. It'd have to be a big one, and I don't know what the market is for that. But it's a very interesting concept. Thank you for bringing that up. So yeah, like with the 928 thing, you know, everybody's like, bring back the 928 on those forums, and I'm like, well, you could buy a Panamera, and it would pretty much be a 928, a modern 928 with 4 doors. How many people are buying them? You know, they want to see them in production, but are these actually the people buying them? So I can say that, like, yeah, Porsche, bring it back, but are you gonna buy it? Why isn't everybody that owns a 944 going out and buying a Cayman now, since it's like pretty much the modern equivalent? You know, it's just a modern version. I wouldn't put them 1-to-1, but I would say that, like, in some ways, you know, 944 and the Cayman are pretty close. But I would say Panamera more than 928. I mean, these things are clearly like the same car to me, you know. Well, so John says, I agree. I'm thinking a modern version, which is affordable. The Macan also brought them back to good when they released that. Yeah, I mean, but the thing is that back then the 944 cost as much as the Cayman. So if you're gonna compare it, you're going to end up with a car that costs as much as the Cayman, and maybe even more than that if they have to develop it from the ground up. The Cayman's able to share some parts and interiors with the 911s and all the other production cars, and that's going to help. If you bring a 944 back in and you're like, oh, we got to manufacture torque tubes again, and we got to come up with a whole nother engine and transmission and stuff, like, maybe you can get away with transmission aspect of it, but then you're still at 70 grand, and it's a great idea, but I think they're still going to be in it for 70 grand, and then you're not really doing anything. I think a lot of people get lost in, oh well, the 944 was, you know, 30 grand back in the 80s, but you could buy them Mazda RX-7 for like $7,000 to $8,000, you know. So I mean, and that was still like $7,000 to $8,000 was still like $50,000, you know, in today's money, you know. So it's fun to think about them coming back out with another low budget Porsche, you know. If anything, they could probably get away with something more like the 914. So the reason why I say that is because there you go. You got your interior. You could just take the interior from the box. Wait a minute, it already is a Boxster, right? But then, like, why doesn't that sell cheap? Well, you just got a 4-cylinder Boxster there. So who knows? Who knows? You know. But that's still what, $60,000. But I say the 914 because the 914, since it was a joint venture with Volkswagen at the time, they were able to do it a little bit cheaper. In today's money, that would probably be around $25,000, $30,000 car. So the 914, if they were to do something like that, they could make a cheaper version of the Boxster. But could you? I mean, the 914 didn't really have adjustable seat. I think one seat adjusted, and everything was just, you had to take the top out manually, all this stuff. There was no power, really, anything. So, I mean, you could strip it down and people would buy a stripped down Boxster, and they'd probably pay more for it. I think that's the way Porsche does it now. If they take your radio out and they take the power roof away and all this stuff, then you got a Speedster, and then they're going to charge you 120 grand for it. So, who knows? Who knows? It's yeah. Just thinking about it, they're going to make the 914. It's going to be $120,000. So Well, awesome. So Happy Fox says a friend just bought 2 Caymans. They're pretty sweet. Yeah, they're pretty awesome little cars. Even the older ones, if you get the IMS bearing taken care of, or the IMS shaft. But yeah, I've been looking at those pretty good. I think I finally have just decided that we're gonna look at some 968s. So that's where we're at. J Fusion says it would have to be a modern version, something retro. Yeah, and even then they're going to charge extra for it. So it's like really hard. What do you really want to cheapen the brand to build, a BRZ? Because at that point you'd have to sell at the price point of a BRZ, and I don't even think that those are selling well. I think it's just going to be one of those ebbs and flows things. When times are tough, what's the first thing people are going to do? Like, I think that the luxury brands will always be there. I don't think that you're going to see necessarily Rolls Royce's sales go down, but I'm sure they do. But Porsches, they're sports cars, so that's what's going to probably take the hit. Happy Fox says 944. Did you ever see 944 balance shaft so sloppy it made a rattle? Oh yeah, I've seen that. And they are meant to be very sloppy. But yeah, I've seen them upside down and so sloppy they skip teeth and slapping stuff, so it's very common. I don't really have anything right now with the balance shafts on. Everything that I have, well, everything's got balance shaft covers on there. That one's got the entire thing taken apart, and so does this one over here. So I can't really show you anything as far as that, but yeah, we definitely see those things a lot. Oof. Luckily these turn well and feel great. But yeah, we'll clean this up and make this look really good. All right, guys. If you got any more questions, go ahead and shoot them out. I mean, just keep the conversation going. It could be just about anything. I really enjoyed the one about the 944 coming back. I have thought of that, but it's always fun to kind of be off the cuff with some of this stuff. You just never know. Happy Fox says mine isn't that sloppy, but there's a new sound from the driver's side of the engine. Check your alternator. Might be surprised, we'll hear tapping. It sounds like it's coming from the back of the balance shaft, and it's just a bad alternator bearing. It just kind of throws the sound up underneath the intake sometimes. So if you're hearing something from that side and you check the belt and everything, go check that. I once bought a car, got it completely reassembled, thought for sure that the balance shaft was bad. Something was going on with it. Turned out being the alternator, because it sounded like it was from the back of the engine. But placed the alternator, and That was it. Yeah, he said, yeah, wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, it's one of those things with the alternators making noise. It's very hard to diagnose because it just throws the sound to the back of the engine. And you're like, this doesn't even sound like it's coming from the front at all. But replacing it fixed it, never had a problem again. But yeah. So you can see we also got our 2.7 liter put in here. Well, put back together here. We've got a new steering rack. Let me show you the, I'll show you the other side. But, so we got a new steering rack coming in. Well, going in, we got it already. We put new discs on. We resealed the bearings, new brake pads on, new hardware here. Rebuilt these struts. They were completely gone, so replaced these strut inserts. We had to cut these off and cut them down, and you get the bolt in the bottom here. And we just painted this to match. Pretty good match. On camera it looks a little more off than it does in person, but it's pretty close. If I didn't tell you, maybe you'd never notice, but Jeffrey says, Conies are on sale for 20% off. Time to rebuild my suspension early car. Do you have a preferred brand for bushings and all the other replacement components? No. A lot of times you just got to go with what you find. Well, I'll say this. I've had hit and miss with some stuff, so as you guys know, we go through a lot of parts around here. I'll get something good from Hamburg Technique and it's fine. And then other times, it's the worst junk I've ever gotten. People complain about Euro parts a lot. And honestly, their relays and electrical stuff, just steer away from that stuff. But as far as the components, like rubber bushings and hoses and stuff, I've never had a problem with them. But Hamburg Technique, just don't. And sometimes you'll get something good, but it's not worth the hassle. Just stay away from that stuff. I think with Euro or Mahle or any of that stuff, you're going to be typically fine. I mean, everybody's going to have their off day. So, but yeah, I think I even ordered a part that was a Hamburg Technique for a steering rack hose. I got it because it was cheap. And I'm like, all you need is a new hose. And some of those were going from anywhere from like $75 to like $600. And I said, I just need something that works, you know? So I like to pick the middle ground most of the time. But I picked one of those up. Just, you know, I like to try different stuff. And that was just, it didn't even fit. So not only do you get the Hamburg Technique struts that hold the hood up, they don't even hold the hood up, but then you got to throw them straight in the trash and you just lost whatever money you had in them. But this hose didn't even fit on there, so now you got to just send it back or throw it away, whatever. So yeah, just stay away from that stuff. The Euro stuff I've had pretty good luck with, and the warranty, I've never had to warranty any of those hoses. So but there are some light Euro stuff you don't want to touch, but for the most part, like if you can get it and it fits, then you're probably going to be fine. Just, yeah, don't do the Hamburg Technique stuff. That's the only thing that I would say not to do. But yeah. Happy Fox says, cool struts, by the way. Yeah, thanks. That was fun. We've done quite a few of them now. We still got to get the brakes rebuilt on this side and get them on. Put the sway bar back in and put the steering rack in. We've got it, we just haven't done it yet. But this is the hose I was talking about. So this one here is, I'm going to cover the address up on it. But yeah, this one here was not cheap. And it don't even tell me who made this. But this one's a good one. But that's the hose. So it was so short it didn't even fit. That may be an OEM, but so we'll go to Worldpac and order a bunch of stuff, and whatever comes in. Whatever we can get for a deal, and like I said, a warranty if it doesn't work. But I've never had to warranty any stuff like that. A lot of times it's just the old hoses. But so I would say to stay away from those. I don't know that I've ever tried those. I have tried the Euro mounts, and I've heard people tell me that they fail in 6 months or something, and you're doing it again. And I can see doing that. I have tried those. I put them on my own car, and I've not had any problem with them. But we offer now two different ones. I think Mahle makes mounts. We don't use the Mahle mounts. I've heard the same thing from those. I think just generally people don't want to buy them, so we usually go with OEM Porsche. We give them the option of that, or we go with another brand that we have. And this brand that we use is like exclusively through one of my vendors. And honestly, I put these in a few cars for people that don't want to buy the OEM mounts, and I've heard nothing but good things with them. So I'm not willing to share that brand. That's going to be something that exclusively we have. But but so far people have absolutely loved them. But the Mahle, the Hamburg Technique, I would go with Euro before I did any of that. I've got them in my car. I've had no problem. I've had them in there for like 5 years, and they're fine. I do like the mounts that we're using now better than those, but it's not worth me redoing it when my mounts are fine. But yeah, they're pretty good mounts. Well, they actually have a hydraulic bladder in there. So the really good mounts are going to have a hydraulic bladder in there. So in a 4-cylinder, you have 2 pistons going up while 2 pistons are going down. And the bigger you make those components, like in a 2.5 liter, for instance, or a 3 liter, the engine's wanting to go up and down like this. And it's perfectly balanced because you have 2 going up and 2 are going down, but it shakes the whole car. And on a V8, you have pistons running all the time. So like while one's going down, one's kind of going up, and another one's going down, so you have a better balance, especially on a cross plane. If you have a flat plane crank, then you get the same thing, but still a little smoother, because the biggest problem is that it's every 180 degrees. So like one piston's now being knocked down while the other piston is, and then another one. So you have a firing frequency that just causes a jolting action. It's too far apart. And so the idea is that you put a hydraulic mount in there to dampen that, and the chambers, it just moves the fluid from one chamber to the other, and that's the dampening action. So, and you can have like very soft rubber pads to do this, and that's what they used to do on bigger engines. You gotta think back in the 60s, Pontiac was making a 3.2 liter inline 4, and they just used soft rubber mounts for that, but they were giant bricks. and that's how they got around it. But Porsche found that the hydraulic mounts could be smaller and do the same job. So if you're buying the cheap ones, you're not getting those hydraulic mounts, and they're not doing their job the way they should. Yeah, if you're buying the cheap, like super cheap ones, you're not getting the hydraulic mounts, and you're not getting the full benefit of the Porsche technology there. So that's why the OEM mounts, well, to be fair, the OEM mounts don't have to cost that much. Porsche puts their name on stuff and then doubles the price. So, I mean, you can see that with the oil filters. I'm buy the same oil filter with the same part number from a manufacturer and then buy it from Porsche, and because it comes in the Porsche box, now you're paying for the box and you're paying for the name. So, but I don't think the Mahle, Happy Fox says the Mahle mounts are pretty good. I've heard they're decent, but again, I've heard that they also collapse after so long. Like, they're okay to begin with, but I also believe that they don't have the hydraulics in them. So the ones that we're using now, they are considerably cheaper than the Porsche parts, but they have the hydraulics in them, and people have absolutely loved them. And they feel better than the Euro, the Mahle, the Hamburg Technique, any of those. They feel, I would dare say, almost as good, if not better, than the Porsche mounts. But yeah, for a fraction of the cost. But yeah, we'll see. I'm gonna put them in some cars, and you know, with the preface that, you know, they may or may not last, and we'll just see how it goes. So I've been doing this, I probably put the first set in maybe like a year ago, and we'll just see how it goes. So Jeffrey asks, what is the average life of a torque tube? I have a minor vibration under heavy acceleration, new motor mounts, upper engine rebuild. I would say that all torque tubes are worn out by now. All of them. They're 40 years old. It's over. It's over. There's not one good torque tube in one of these cars. And we have some, you know, we can take them and spin them and go, oh, they don't make very much noise, but just, it's over for them. It's time to rebuild every one of them. Yeah, every one of these cars have over 100,000 miles on them, and the ones that don't have 100,000 miles sat, and humidity got to the bearings, and it's just over. It's 40 years old, man. I think it's just over. So it's one of those things where my hair is just kind of, I don't know what's going on with it today. I was under a car. I think I got some oil in it. But yeah, I would say with a torque tube. So I gotta do the same thing to my own cars. My torque tubes, if I'm sitting there idling, I can hear it going. It's just over with. Yeah, it's definitely, like, they all just dry out. The grease dries out. The grease picks up dirt. It's not sealed in there in any way to, like, not allow dirt in. Dirt can get right back in there through the clutch and through the rear. The transmission side of it, it's typically clean. If you ever pull the port inspection holes down, you'll notice it's clean in there. So dirt's not necessarily getting that way, but from the clutch side, yeah, there's nothing keeping just clutch stuff and dirt. And especially if those inspection holes, like where the clutch, where the clutch lever is, if all that's been opened, it's over with. Yeah, you got dirt all in your torque tube bearings, and it's just, it's time. It doesn't matter how little it's driven or anything. It's 40 years old. The bearings are dried out. So that's just my opinion of it. We'll have some that we don't have to rebuild, and they drive just fine. But yeah, it's just time to do them all. also, Happy Fox says, what bearings do you put in if you swap them out? So we used to have all our torque tube. We don't do it here because you've got to have these things lined perfectly. They need special machinery to do. So I know people rebuild them at home and stuff, but that's not good enough for us. We have to send these off to specialists to do it. We need to make sure everything's still in alignment. We have to make sure that the bearing thrust and all that stuff is like perfectly centered and there's no wear, because if the bearing's sloppy in there, we need to replace the torque tube, and we need to know this stuff down to everything. So I used to send them to Black Sea down in Atlanta, and they would put the super bearings in there for us. And he's kind of gotten out of the game now, so he still produces the bearings, but he no longer does it for us. So nowadays, if you guys know Bud Hoffman, he's at 944 Fest and does Hoffman torque tubes. I'll give him a shout out, even though I'm not affiliated with him and I've never gotten a torque tube from him, but he does, from what I've seen, some amazing work. And so yeah, just hit him up and get one done right, because there's just no way, like, trying to do this in your garage, it's hours and hours. You got to think, like, we got 2 or 3 guys here any given day. We don't need to drop everything to try and rebuild a torque tube and spend like 5-6 hours on this and cleaning it up, getting all the rust out, making sure everything is like pinpoint accurate. And some of these tools that they use to do this cost you thousands of dollars, and it's not even worth it. Don't even bother. It's kind of like with the hatches. They're like, do you rebuild the hatches? It's like, well, we'd have to take and spend like 15 hours of our day to do this, and we don't even know if it's going to hold. But there's guys that rebuild them that they have thousands of dollars in equipment to do it right, you know. And kind of like how we farm out the interior. We used to do the interior here, and now it's just like, you know what? We got specialists that will do this for us, and they will make it, you know, if it takes them a month to do it, we can be doing other stuff. So I do agree with doing stuff yourself when you can, but some of it's getting to the point now where 15 years ago, 10 years ago, people were rebuilding torque tubes in their garage, but now it's become like, don't even bother. There's somebody that'll build it for you and they'll do a better job. And the last thing you want to do with a torque tube is find out you screwed up somewhere and have to tear that whole thing apart and go in and do it again. J Fusion, who is the guy that does the torque tubes? Was he at the fest? Yes, he was at the fest, and his name's Bud Hoffman. You can find him on, I think he's just got a Facebook page. So if you guys are on Facebook, look up Hoffman torque tubes, and should find them there. But yeah, if you see like just a fraction of the stuff that they go through to rebuild these things, you'd never want to rebuild one at home again. I mean, it can be done, but the precision and the painstaking levels that they do, it's worth every penny. So that's why we would send ours to Black Sea. But like I said, he doesn't do it anymore. But yeah, the last thing we want to do is like pull this torque tube apart, find out that like it's worn in certain areas, and we got to just pull another torque tube apart, keep finding one until something works, and then we get it lined up. Is the torque tube bent? Does the splines need to be fixed? Does it, you know, is it straight when it goes in? We get the bearings and we have to get all the rust out of there and get all. Nah, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's worth every penny just to pay somebody to buy a new one, essentially. So that's the way I think of it. But yeah, it's a tough decision sometimes, because it's all about saving money, right? It's all about having like a budget to do things, but sometimes it's just not. It's not worth it. And Jeffrey says upholstery work is for upholsterers. Yeah, well, yeah, you'd know. Yeah, no, it's at some point in time you just have to go, I can do this, but at what cost? You just have to go, look, it's not worth my time and my effort. It's going to cost me more if I rebuild the torque tube here at the shop. You have some escape. Cans escaping in the wind. But yeah, at some point you just have to cut your losses, you know. Anyway, guys, we've been on here for 50 minutes today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We're going to go ahead and sign off here. Have a great rest of your Sunday, and we will see you next week with another 44 Club meeting. So thank you guys for coming out, and we'll see you then.